I've managed to get around to playing Sea of Stars, the 2023 role-playing game created by the Quebec-City based indie developer Sabotage Studio that was originally announced as a project on Kickstarter back in 2020. Sea of Stars is set prior to the events of the studio's previous 2018 game, The Messenger, and was the winner of the 2023 Best Indie Game category from both the Golden Joystick Awards and the Game Awards. Having received wide favorable reception, let's dive in to see what it's all about. Sea of Stars tells the story of two young heroes known as the Children of the Solstice, who must train to become full-fledged solstice warriors to combine the powers of the sun and moon to perform a special magic whose force is the only one capable of putting an end to enemies threatening their world. These enemies are known as Dwellers, powerful monsters created by an alchemist known as the Fleshmancer, who travels across worlds planting these seeds of evil. A Dweller's strength continues to grow the longer they are left alive, and if left for too long, they end up becoming what is known as a World Eater and are unlikely to be stopped by anyone. To combat this, Solstice Warriors regularly perform cleansings to target and eliminate the strongest Dweller. However, these cleansings can only be performed during a total eclipse, as that is the only period in which a Dweller is not immune to a Solstice Warrior's magic. Upon completing their trials, and with the assistance of their childhood friend, the party is tasked with eliminating the last known Dweller of their world to bring peace. But this is an RPG, so you already know that the initial premise never goes according to plan. So I'll conclude the plot summary here, so as not to reveal spoilers or to ruin any surprises. Overall, I thought the story of Sea of Stars was good. It's a light-hearted adventure with courageous and spirited characters facing off against evil forces, with periodic moments of humor thrown in for levity. I wouldn't quite say to expect a revolution here, and I imagine some may find the storytelling and characters a bit basic for their taste. However, viewing the game with the understanding of it being only the second game released by this independent studio, there were enough moments throughout the story that surprised me, or that I found intriguing that let me know this game was clearly a passion project that was thought out and warrants merit. Sea of Stars really shines in the visual department. While it is a retro-inspired RPG in the classic style, upon closer look it incorporates modern graphical techniques which elevate its 2D pixel art design. Whether it's real-time day and night cycles with dynamic lighting and shadows, or post-processing effects such as bloom and ambient occlusion, these graphical techniques aid in providing an overall pleasing presentation and help to make the world feel more alive. To add to this are the many colorful environments your adventure will span across. Throughout your adventure, you will explore mountain trails, haunted mansions, a ghost pirate ship, and underwater caves, just to name a few, all accompanied by an engaging soundtrack featuring contributions from none other than Yasunori Mitsuda, the main composer of the RPG classic Chrono Trigger. In addition, there is a sense of freedom in your exploration. You'll spend time climbing surfaces, swimming, sailing, jumping off ledges, and using your grappling hook to vault over chasms. I really enjoyed the attention to detail and variety in these areas, as the developers considered not only how these environments are presented to the player, but also how the player will feel navigating through them, and I rarely felt like any particular area or aesthetic overstayed its welcome. Your journey in Sea of Stars will take place across several islands scattered around the world map, with various towns and other points of interest located on each island. While there is no save anywhere feature in the game fortunately does place frequent and convenient save points within environments that are coupled with campsites that allow you to hear the thoughts of your party members, rest and restore your stats, and cook recipes to produce food to support you in battle. In addition, camping may be triggered manually while on the world map, so here at least you're not dependent on when the game decides to present this option to you. Furthermore, you will encounter various puzzles which help to mix up the gameplay and environment traversal, as well as optional mini-games which provide alternative methods to obtain items and treasures. When it comes to combat, Sea of Stars features turn-based combat with no random battles, so the enemies are visible on screen and can be avoided if desired for the most part. Similar to Super Mario RPG, combat includes active player input in the form of timed hits and timed blocks. allowing you to achieve maximum damage and healing, as well as minimizing damage should you time your action right when attacks land. Keep in mind that all attacks have different timings, so you'll have to learn the rhythm of both your party members and your enemies to maximize your effectiveness. Additional combat tools come in the form of boosting, which involves magical orbs known as live mana, dropped by enemies after they're hit with a normal attack. These can be absorbed by your character to not only boost the damage of their next attack, but to also assist in breaking enemy locks. Next to each enemy are a series of icons corresponding to your party members' weapons and damage types, which indicate the locks that must be broken in order to cancel their turn order. When boosting, the damage type of your character will be applied to their attack, allowing you to break both weapon and damage type locks. Managing the live mana present on the battlefield and swapping between your 6 active party members during combat is important mostly for boss fights, as bosses will typically have a few abilities with a short turn order and multiple locks. So, finding a strategic method to break them in enough time becomes critical, especially if they're gearing up for an attack that you don't want to face. Rounding out your combat toolbox are skills, which consist of various abilities unique to each character. Combos, which are special joint moves performed in synergy with another party member that are built up over the course of battle. And lastly, ultimates, which are also built up similar to combos, but instead serve as each character's final skill, complete with a fancy animation sequence. With all of that said, I had a fun time with the combat system. It includes just enough systems to keep me thinking about my strategy without overwhelming me with excessive complexity, yet remains simple enough to understand that I can immediately pick it up and begin seeing results. That isn't to say that it's perfect, however, as no game is. One area that I think could be improved upon would be to add a broader variety of character skills that go beyond straightforward offensive attacks. For example, one of your characters possesses an extremely useful skill that places a one-time shield on your entire party that completely negates the next damage received. Another skill is used to hurl an enemy to another position on the battlefield, very useful for setting up an area of effect attack to damage all nearby enemies. Another awesome skill allows you to delay an opponent's turn timer 2 turns, granting you more time to, say, break the opponent's lock. As you can probably tell, all of these skills sound really useful. However, for the most part, that's pretty much the gist of them. I would like to see more skills added in a sequel to this game that provide more options to affect the course of battle, such as more support and defensive skills, skills that allow you to alter the turn order or speed of it, or even incorporating status effects into the mix. I can understand if the developers intend to keep the combat system learning curve no higher than an intermediate level. However, I do believe it can be improved upon in a way that doesn't take away from its original intention. Adjacent to combat is character progression, and I am pleased to say that Sea of Stars was designed to be anti-grind. Characters will level up appropriately with normal progression, and you won't find yourself spending hours managing party equipment, which allows the game to have a more constant forward momentum rather than leaving players concerned that they may be unprepared for what awaits next. And if you do find yourself desiring to increase or decrease the game's challenge, you can turn to relics. Relics are special items that can be toggled from the menu, allowing you the option to adjust the way the game is experienced. For example, you have relics which can double your HP and auto heal after combat, provide more visible confirmation on successful timed hits and blocks, and even one which increases player damage taken by 35% and disables the use of items in combat. There are over a dozen relics in the game, and unlike say the similar Draconian mode in Dragon Quest XI, in which these options cannot be reactivated on the same save file if disabled, fortunately in Sea of Stars, they can be toggled on or off at any time. Throughout my playthrough, I did encounter a few additional areas of improvement that stuck out to me. Most notably would be your party interaction. While there are many narrative and plot-driven moments in which each of your party members chime in on the latest events, I felt there was a lack of moments to experience your party members just casually chatting with each other. Given the frequency at which you'll find yourself camping throughout the game, I felt that camping was a somewhat missed opportunity to add in this sort of party dialogue. Additionally, when it comes to navigation, unfortunately backtracking through areas is a tedious endeavor. as there is no option available once you've entered an area to quickly exit back out to the world map. Adding to this, towns and other environments are connected linearly on the world map, so if you want to visit one particular place, you're forced to travel all the way back through each connected section until you reach your destination. To be fair, some islands have little shortcuts that help to reduce this, plus there is a late game ability you achieve that largely mitigates this, but by the time you get it, a decent chunk of its benefit would have been useful earlier in the game. On the quality of life side, while normal enemy HP is visible to the player, boss HP is not. Personally, I'm not a fan of RPGs that do this, and I see no real benefit to the player to conceal this information, especially for longer late game boss fights that can have a tendency to drag on. Revealing boss HP would help to give players an idea of their progress made, rather than just whacking away until the death blow animation triggers. Lastly, there exists no implementation of a quest log to remind players of open side quests, nor does the world map provide an option that summarizes all locations present on each island, leaving you to essentially memorize these locations should you need or want to revisit. Again, I don't believe these points critically affect the experience of the game. However, I believe a quality of life update to incorporate these would be welcome. While I did enjoy most of the game, upon reaching the game's conclusion, I did feel its ending was too open-ended and left much to be desired in terms of wrapping up all loose threads. Upon game completion, you'll receive a tip notifying you of a prior location to revisit, alluding to steps you must complete should you desire to achieve the true ending of the game. Steps that I'm sure some players may consider excessive or just unnecessary. Although I ultimately did achieve this ending, I'll admit that I'm generally not a fan of true endings in RPGs. Most of the time they are implemented in a way that feels tacked on and involve a series of tedious steps that attempt to be justified by the reward of the true ending, which to me begs the question of why that wouldn't just be made as the actual ending of the game to begin with. All things considered, I had fun with Sea of Stars. It brought back old school classic RPG vibes, coupled with touches of more modern elements for an overall refreshing RPG experience. If this sounds intriguing to you, I would definitely suggest giving this one a shot so you can experience it for yourself. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel to be notified of when new videos release. And let me know in the comment section what your thoughts were on Sea of Stars. Till next time.